I was 13 when I first fell in love. The kind of love you never forget, not because it was perfect, but because it tore a piece of you and never gave it back. His name was Cale. He had the kind of face you'd expect to see in a glossy sports magazine. Sharp jaw, tousled hair that looked too good to be natural, and eyes that held a kind of arrogant charm that could command a room without a word. He wasn't just handsome. He was the kind of boy who knew he was handsome, and that was dangerous. I was the opposite. My braces glinted under the fluorescent lights whenever I was forced to speak. My eyeglasses were thick enough to magnify the world 3 times over, and my limbs hung awkwardly on my frame like I hadn't yet grown into them. I wore oversized uniforms that hid everything, maybe because I was scared of being seen. But if anyone ever got close enough to look into my eyes, they'd see that strange hue, gray, almost like storm clouds about to cry. My skin was pale, too pale, smooth like porcelain, and sometimes I used to wonder if that alone made me a little bit pretty. But no one ever looked that close, except when they laughed. I sat at the farthest corner of the classroom, away from the sunlight, away from him. But I watched him. Every movement, every laugh, every time he passed a basketball between his legs and made the crowd of students cheer, he was magic. And I was invisible. That was how I liked it. At least I thought I did. I would follow him. No, not in a creepy way. I just wanted to exist near him, even if he never knew. My best friend, Mia, knew everything. She came with me to every basketball game, every practice after school. We'd sit on the bleachers, me gripping the steel rail in silence, my eyes tracing his every movement, and her sighing loudly every time I held my breath when he smiled. "You're hopeless," she once whispered with a smirk, nudging me with her shoulder. "I know," I had said. It was enough. Loving someone from afar without hoping, just admiring, until it wasn't. I don't know how the rumor started. Maybe someone saw me staring too long. Maybe Mia told someone without meaning to. Maybe I was just too obvious. But suddenly everyone knew. I remember the laughter first. I remember sitting at my desk tracing lines on the wood with my pen when I heard someone behind me whisper, "He has a crush on Cale." And then a giggle. Then more. They didn't just laugh, they pointed, they mocked. I became the school joke overnight. "Hey, braces boy, practicing your wedding vows for Cale?" someone called out in the hallway once. My stomach dropped so often I got used to it. But nothing compared to what I heard that day. Mia and I were walking back to our classroom after lunch. We were late, and as we reached the door, we paused. I heard my name. Then I heard Cale's voice. "Wait, for real?" someone said inside, loud enough for the whole class to hear. "That ugly guy? The one with the huge glasses? He likes you?" And then laughter erupted. I froze. And then Cale spoke. His voice was deep, careless, cruel in the way only teenagers trying to protect their reputation could be. "Seriously? That's disgusting. Like, he's not just ugly, he's a freaking faggot too. Gross. No way someone like that even deserves to look at me." More laughter. Louder this time. Unashamed. My name echoed with the sound of disgust and ridicule. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I stood there right outside the door, every word sinking into my skin like needles. Mia grabbed my hand and pulled me away. I think I was crying already, but I didn't notice until she wrapped her arms around me and we stood at the rooftop of the school building. The sky above us was wide and gray, just like my eyes, and my sobs blended with the wind. "He's not worth your love," Mia whispered, brushing my hair back, tears in her own eyes. "He's not even worth your pain." But he was, at least to the boy I was. I stopped attending practices. I stopped watching from the bleachers. I walked through the corridors like a ghost, each step dragging with shame, each stare a dagger. I counted the days until the school year ended, clinging to the idea of escape. When the final bell rang on our last day of junior high, I never looked back. I transferred schools, I started over, I let go. At least I thought I did. High school turned to college. Pain turned into ambition. I buried the boy who loved too quietly, too deeply, too naively. And I bloomed. My braces came off. My skin, once too pale, became porcelain clear. My eyes, the only part of me I never hated, became the first thing people noticed. I worked on myself, not for revenge, not for anyone, but because I was tired of being small. I graduated top of my class, started a career in fashion. Opened my own atelier before I turned 24. And then came the message. A class reunion for grade 10. Just a small gathering. Dinner, drinks, memories. I hesitated. My chest tightened with old ghosts. But I said yes. Maybe part of me wanted to show them. Maybe part of me wanted closure. The restaurant was small but elegant. I wore a black suit tailored to my frame, sleek and sharp. My hair fell gently over one side, and I wore soft contacts that highlighted the storm in my eyes. People looked. They whispered. I was no longer the boy with braces. And then I saw him. Cale. He looked almost the same. Broad shoulders, athletic build, and the same defined jawline that once made me forget how to breathe. But something had changed. The brightness in his eyes, the careless confidence he once wore like a crown, was dimmer now. There was a weariness, a shadow beneath his smile. He saw me, and for a moment, it was as though time cracked open and swallowed the noise of the reunion whole. He stopped mid-sentence with someone, eyes fixed on me like I was a vision he never expected to see again. The conversation around him faded as he stared, mouth slightly open, chest subtly rising like he was trying to catch his breath. I saw it in the way his gaze dropped to my lips, flickered to my jaw, then back to my eyes. Recognition. Shock. Hunger. Regret. And then, when we were alone for a moment by the balcony, the late evening city lights casting gold on my skin, he approached me. You look amazing, he said, his voice softer now, the arrogance he once carried hollowed into something fragile. I almost didn't recognize you. I didn't say anything, just smiled, not warmly, not cruelly, just blankly. He waited, expecting something, hoping. You seeing anyone? He asked, his voice barely above the music inside. I turned to him slowly, looked him straight in the eyes, letting the silence stretch long enough to sting. Then I smiled again, a small one, polite, empty, and I walked away. I didn't owe him pain. I didn't owe him anger. I didn't even owe him words, because once I loved him with everything I had, and he broke me. Now I loved myself more, and that was enough. But he followed. Wait, he said, grabbing my wrist, not roughly but desperate. Please, I never forgot you. I turned, and in the seconds that followed, something inside him cracked open. His face twisted with a storm of emotion, lips trembling as if words had been bottled up for too long. I was stupid, he said, voice cracking. In high school, I was cruel, I know that, and every damn day after that, I hated myself for it. You stopped coming to my games. I kept looking to the bleachers. You were always there before, and when you stopped showing up, I felt it. The loss. You never even knew, but I looked for you every time. I just couldn't admit anything back then. I was a coward. I swallowed hard. His words hit like waves I wasn't prepared to drown in. Then suddenly he pulled me into a tight hug, arms wrapping around my waist like he was afraid I'd vanish if he let go. I'm sorry, he whispered, his voice trembling against the side of my neck. Let me make it right. And then his lips pressed against mine, desperate, pleading, aching with years of silence and regret. But I pushed him back, hard. He stumbled a little, his breath caught, eyes wide with pain and shame. I took a shaky breath, then turned away. But behind me his voice rang out loud, clear, breaking through the night air like thunder. This time, he shouted, I won't stop. I'll chase you, no matter what it takes. I don't care how long it takes. I want you in my life. I've always wanted you. The words hung in the air, suspended in the tension between who we were and who we had become. Later that night, we sat around a long table with the rest of our old classmates, sharing drinks, stories, and the kind of laughter that only nostalgia can bring. Someone suggested a game of truth or dare, immature maybe, but strangely fitting. When the bottle spun and landed on Cale, someone smirked. Truth or dare, Mr. Heartthrob? Cale didn't hesitate. Truth. A girl giggled. Okay then, tell us something you've never told anyone from our class. He looked at me, straight at me, and then he said it. I lied back in high school, he said quietly. I said I wasn't into him, that I thought he was ugly. But the truth is, I had a crush on him, a real one. I just didn't have the guts to admit it. I thought people would laugh at me, so I laughed first. It was the worst mistake I've ever made. Gasps, whispers, eyes turning to me. I didn't react. I stayed still, face calm, glass to my lips, monotonous, detached. I had rehearsed this kind of moment in my head 1,000 times, and it had never mattered less than it did right now. Then it was my turn. Truth or dare, they asked. Dare, I said, voice calm. One of the guys grinned. Kiss Cale, on the lips, 10 seconds. Laughter broke out around the table. I stood, walked over to him. Cale didn't move. He watched me like he didn't dare breathe. And then I kissed him, not softly, not shyly. I kissed him torridly, tongue, teeth, breath. A decade of heartache poured into 10 seconds that burned the air around us. His hands instinctively reached for me, trembling, desperate. When I pulled away, the table erupted into roars, catcalls, clapping. Cale was breathless, his lips red, his eyes stunned, drunk in the euphoria of what just happened. The kiss had left the table in shock, but I had nothing more to say. My role in this little high school reunion was done. I grabbed my bag with quiet finality, the scraping of my chair loud against the polished floor. I'm heading out, I said simply, offering a small nod to the people who used to be my classmates. I didn't look at Cale, I didn't need to, I didn't owe him that, I didn't look back. I had loved him once, I had mourned him once, but now I lived. And if he wanted to chase me, then he'd have to run faster than all the pain he left behind. I stepped into the warm air of the evening, the murmur of laughter and clinking glasses fading behind the glass doors. I walked toward my red car parked just beyond the restaurant's patio, the sound of my heels clicking against the pavement steady, assured. But behind me, I heard the door burst open, heavy and loud. Jess, wait! His voice urgent, raw, desperate. I didn't turn. Jess, please, he called again. I was already reaching for the handle of my car when I felt his hand wrap around my wrist. I turned slowly to face him. He looked flushed, breathless from running, eyes wild and brimming with something that looked a lot like panic. Don't go, Cale begged, stepping closer. Not like this, not without hearing me out. I stared at him, dead in the eyes. Back off, Cale, I'm not interested, not anymore. He froze. I leaned closer, let my words cut sharp. Do you know how many gorgeous men are lining up just to get a chance with me? I could pick any one of them with a snap of my fingers. And I saw it, the flicker in his eyes, jealousy, pure, unfiltered jealousy. Without warning, he surged forward and pinned me against the side of my red car, both hands braced beside my head, trapping me between the cool metal and his body. Before I could speak, his mouth crashed onto mine. It wasn't gentle, it wasn't kind, it was dominant, brutal, possessive. His lips crushed mine, and my body betrayed me. My fingers curled into his shirt, my mouth responding, aching. It was fire and fury, lips moving like they were trying to devour the years we lost. I didn't know how long we were kissing. It could have been seconds. It could have been years. But realization hit me like a slap. I shoved him, hard. He stepped back, panting, lips swollen. Then with a grin, he brushed his thumb across his lower lip and looked at me with those maddening eyes. That's 3 kisses today, he said, and you responded to all of them. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely think. I hated him. I hated how he still affected me. Because I knew myself too well, and I knew my old feelings were starting to resurface, clawing their way up from where I buried them. I stood there, shaking, stunned, unsure. Cale stepped forward again, slower this time, softer. He pulled me into an embrace, arms wrapping around me with a warmth I had long forgotten. He buried his face into my shoulder and whispered, Please, let me fix this. Let me show you how much I missed you, how much I love you. I can't undo the past, but I can make something better. I just want a chance to make it right. I was still breathless, still aching, still weak from that kiss. But I nodded, just once, barely realizing what I had agreed to. Cale lit up, joy crashing into his features like sunrise. He leaned in and gave me a soft kiss on the lips, short, tender, like a promise. But this time I had the strength to pull away. I placed my hands on his chest, gently pushing him back. If you really want me, I said, looking straight into his eyes, you better work hard for it. A pause. Then I added, I'm not going to make this easy for you, Cale. With that, I opened the door to my car and slid into the driver's seat. I gripped the wheel, steadied my breathing, and was about to start the engine when I heard it. I love you, Jess. I love you so much, and I'm not giving up. I froze, and I smiled. It was small, unbidden, but it came from a place deep within me that still remembered what it was like to love him. I shifted the gear, glanced one last time into my rearview mirror. There he was, standing in the middle of the parking lot, hands in his pockets, looking straight at me with that wide smile. The same smile that once ruined me, the same smile that was starting to piece me back together. And for the first time, I thought, maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop clinging to the pain of the past and let myself be chased,